merciful thing in the world, I think, is the inability of the human mind to correlate all its contents. Hello and welcome to the final video in the Who Are You series, an exploration of how we make sense of human existence. For this final chapter, I will be speaking with my classmate Tomas, who studies philosophy. Together, we look at what it means to be human through the lens of idealism and materialism, determinism and freedom, personhood and selfhood, and the role of language in shaping understanding. On screen now are a few philosophers that are referenced throughout the conversation. Feel free to pause here and skim if you need a quick refresher. Without further ado, let's begin.
Thank you so much for coming. Your name?
My name is Tomas Fortiu.
And you are a...
I am a philosophy and mathematics student at... I guess how we tend nowadays, we like to, and I'm not saying this is a bad thing at all, but it's just how things have developed. We are more inclusive, with our accounts of history, with who we consider to be like human. And so Hegel, back in his time, he didn't consider those like the Indians under the caste system. He didn't consider them to have a history because they weren't allowed the basic freedoms upon birth that begin history in his conception. If you're born into the caste system, then you're already like born to be a certain way, and that doesn't really afford a freedom that Hegel views as valuable towards this conception of like the development of consciousness. But Marx, of course, he starts history at the existence of the human, so that includes all human histories. When Adam performed, I guess, the first sin, he became bonded through God to I certainly don't know much about the Bible.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, there's like a extent to which we're free, I guess, because can we consider like Adam free before he did the sin if he couldn't do the sin, I guess, and not be led to a life of bondage? There's a lot of interesting questions posed throughout, I guess, history, with like development of different things, and you kind of mentioned Descartes, cogito ergo sum. Descartes famously separates like the mind and the body, and after Descartes, it's kind of like a conversation of whether or not like each is free and is, and we get a lot of like determinism stuff, like is the world like determined? Is the world,
or is there
set out
like nihilism, no purpose at all?
You might say that if the world is determined, then whatever we do has no real consequences. That's a problem. If we say that our thoughts are determined, our actions are already determined, then nobody can really take moral accountability for whatever it is that they do, because it just was going to happen anyways. And so Hegel might say that he's got a very complicated view of like how consciousness works and everything, but overall I think he might say that we're just bound to the freedom accelerating towards absolute freedom, I'd say. He has these world history individuals, world historical individuals, like Alexander the Great.
I figured. I figured as much.
And these people, their own personal will, say like Alexander the Great wants to like conquer, or like say like even this is the subject of debate, because this was after his time, but say Hitler has like these personal drives that lead him to change history, the personal drives of these individuals changes history in a way that leads more towards the absolute freedom of each individual consciousness. So I'd say there's some like substance, I'd say, of like a personhood, what makes you a person. There's a lot of different definitions for that. I've been reading Harry G. Frankfurt. He's an American philosopher, mostly active in the 60s and 70s, but he was alive up until 2023. And his definition of a person is one with second order desires and second order volitions, where first order desires, first order volitions are just like just almost animalistic, like impulse. We like, I'm hungry, I go out to eat. But then like the second order desire would be like, I want to be hungry, or well, that maybe that's a weird way of putting it, but that we can like structure our thought,
like planning ahead, actually forming things.
Yeah, I guess that's an important part of it. But yeah, his like conception of a person like this separates us from like animals, I guess, who only act on their first order desires. They do a first order volition based on their first order desire, and I'd say that the self, like the individual, isn't really like described by that. There's really no like, there's no way that you can really get the individual from that, because
there's no single definition for it.
Yeah. So I think that if you were doing Harry G. Frankfurt's account, you'd have to say like an individual is someone who has like a certain set of like first order desires, certain set of second order volitions for desires and volitions, and we'd have to like say that they occupy a space and everything, because we don't know yet that they can't have like two different people can't have like the same exact desires and volitions. Yeah, I think it could get lonely, I guess, if you relied too heavily on these means of understanding, like language. If you take language for like granted almost as like the ultimate like means of which we can know another, I think you might be disappointed there and end up lonely, because there are just things we can't know through language. We can't get the immanence of the self. If I tried to view myself through language, I would feel disconnected from myself, because
you're literally creating a buffer.
Yeah. So if I go out to write an autobiography or something, that language might elicit like the feelings of self within me, but someone else reads it and they'll only know that those were feelings of the self were elicited within me, and they won't know their self, myself within them.
That concludes this series, Who Are You? Thank you again to Tomas for taking part in the interview, and thank you for watching. I hope you've learned something new. Until next time.
Keep reading. I guess to everyone,
I'll be sure to.
I have to keep reading, and so does everyone else.